Right, so I'd like to talk about a project that I've been running on selective dry cow therapy today. So at the end of a cow's lactation, what would normally happen, what standard practice, is that the farmer dries her off using a tube of antibiotic, which is there to basically kill off any subclinical levels of infection that could be in the udder at that time. And then a teat sealant is used, which acts as a physical barrier in the teat canal to prevent any bacteria entering the udder during that dry period. But on the farm that I'm working with, we were able to identify that 80% of his herd were not in need of that antibiotic tube at the point that they were dried off. Now, I'm sure that you're all aware about antibiotic use and that we must do our best to try and reduce its routine use. So obviously there's lots of long-term benefits to this, but initially we managed to save the farmer nearly £900 in cash saving just simply by not buying those antibiotic tubes. And that saving will multiply as the years go on because he intends to continue using this practice going forward. Additional benefits will also see less milk going down the drain just because there's less milk on withdrawal periods, so less waste milk. And the really important thing is that you'll all understand that broad spectrum antibiotics kill off both the bad bacteria but also the good bacteria, and the good bacteria in the udder have a function in terms of preventing mastitis going forwards. So there's evidence out there to show that a cow that has a low somatic cell count at the point that she's dried off, that's treated with a teat sealant only, is 12 times less likely to suffer from a case of E. coli mastitis in the subsequent lactation. Now, every case of E. coli mastitis is costing the farmer £180 to £200 just in terms of cash treatment, and then all the yield losses on top of that. So I'm sure that you can see it's responsible use of medicine. I'd also like to talk about the project that we have looking at efficient milking routines. So we all know that time is precious, and in business, time is money. Dairy farmers spend a lot of time in their milking parlour, and so we wanted to make sure that that time was well spent and everything was as streamlined as possible. So I wanted to show you these two milk flow charts. You can see the cow on the top. The cups go on and she starts milking out quite quickly, she milks quite rapidly, and then you'll see that the milk flow drops fairly abruptly, and that process takes 3 minutes. The cow underneath, the graph at the bottom, again the cups go on, she starts milking quite quickly, but then you can see she milks out, but each quarter is basically draining in succession. So one quarter finishes milking, then the next quarter and the next and the last. And that process is taking 6 minutes for a cow of very similar milk yield. We were able to measure that milk flow using this piece of gadgetry, which just slots into the milking parlour and measures how fast the milk is flowing through the pipes, basically, amongst other things. And so what we were able to find is that, of course, animals are creatures of habit. Cows respond in the milking parlour the same way every day if we treat them the same way every day. So by standardising that pre-milking routine, the milk letdown was made to be much faster. She milked out much quicker, and of course ultimately that saves time. When you multiply that up by the number of rows, by the number of days, it's a significant amount of time. We were able to improve the cluster position with a series of small changes in the parlour. Just simply shortened the length of the milk tube actually, which was a couple of inches too long in this case. And what that was doing was holding the clusters, instead of the clusters sitting dead square on the udder, they were just off to one side, and that was exactly what was causing that successional finish in milking. When each part of the udder finishes in succession like that, one teat or more than one teat is being over-milked. So we also, in that instance, reduced the over-milking that was happening. And we had an unexpected benefit that we found as well. The milk meters that were in the parlour were not calibrated correctly, and so the cows on this herd are being fed to yield. But basically the farmer was assuming that the yield was different to what it actually was because the milk meters were out by 15%. There's a couple of numbers up there, but basically it's an organic farm, so they're paying quite a lot for concentrates. But once you multiplied up the 15% of feed that they were either over or under feeding across this herd, it was accounting to over £30,000 annually. So we're hoping to see either an increased yield or a reduction in feed costs in the next few weeks. So the next stage of this project is looking at, does using washable milking cloths do a better job in terms of reducing milking time, improving milk letdown, and improving milk hygiene than paper towels. So look out for updates on that, and I'd encourage you all to get out to these farms, see the projects in the flesh, and hear the full story.